I was a choir boy at Westminster Cathedral Choir School, just down the road, and I can't remember how old I was when I went there, but I couldn't have been more than 8, 7 or 8, I suppose. And then Maxwell came to be organist there, and increasingly I became intrigued by the music he was playing, because he played a lot of different repertoire. And of course the sound of the organ to a youngster was quite enthralling, because it's such a huge sound, that organ in Westminster Cathedral, and as a youngster I thought, wow, fancy being able to make the earth shake in that way. And so I plucked up courage eventually to ask him to give me some lessons. I had already been learning the piano from the age of 6, and he first of all put me off because he said I was too short to reach the pedals and basically too young. He advised me to go on with my piano studies. But a year later he agreed, and I started lessons with him, and I'm so glad I did, because his method of teaching a beginner was absolutely unsurpassed.
Right. Could we have those in twos? Rather. Lean. Right. This is Chopin's music, Paul. He was in what we call the Romantic period. Our grandfathers knew all about Romanticism, as we call it, but they weren't aware of it. It was part of their life. This is music from the heart of the composer. It's a language on its own. These days, in the 1970s, we have to learn, or we have to be taught what it's all about. In those days, it was natural to express a feeling in melody. You see, since I suppose, the Industrial Revolution, the human values were gradually undermined. People became machine-minded, and so law-abiding, they ended up by being like the dog tied up for so long, you take the chain off and he won't run away. Now the chain is off me, and if I've been so used to harness, I shall do this. Straight in. I've got a harness on, but I also have a soul. This time they're taking my chain off. So I shall do what I want to do, or my heart. Watch this. Some people think I'm mad on this, of course. I might be. But it's life. If life gave everything completely expected, life wouldn't be worth living. It applies to all of us, present day. There's no surprise. Supposing I did this. That'd be interesting. But he did this. Listen to this.
I went on studying with him all my time at the choir school. Later on, in 1952, my father died, and Maxwell was very aware of this gap in my life, and he was quite paternalistic and gave me lots of advice, and not only musically but also in a fatherly way, which he continued to do in his letters to me for some years afterwards. I hope you are progressing on the organ, but remember to make haste slowly. It is always the best. You have many years in front of you, so let your music grow naturally and don't try to force it, will you? If you force the pace, your music will become brittle, like a hothouse plant, and it'll have no stamina. And you'll be left with nothing but uncertainty and possibly a perverted taste, heaven forbid. Even as a child, I was impressed about how impeccably well dressed he always was. Always beautiful shirts and ties and suits, but more than that, he always came to the cathedral wearing a bowler hat and with a furled umbrella.
Right, we'll have a sort of worm there. Going somewhere in twos from va. Right, got it?
Music is an active art. I've always been an active person. And activity demands good health, physical and mental, as well as inspirational. For this activity, one must have strength and stamina, both of body and mind, and this can never come from comfort. Everyone knows that Wellington is a healthy city. Our wind gives us a clean atmosphere, free from the curse of pollution. It's almost surrounded by sea, and the shoreline is clean. I feel that these scouring elements play no small part psychologically, helping to clarify the mind. And clarity of thought is very necessary in music and performing. I even find that the voices I train tend to produce a clean sound. My choirs, they sing with a clear sound. Even the organ at St. Mary's, which I designed, has a clean sound without muddiness. I feel that this slant in my own work is partly the result of my environment.
He said to me once, and this was nothing to do with playing, he said, let's make an organ pipe together, and he made it out of papier-mâché, and I helped, and he carved out of pieces of wood the mouth of the pipe and the foot, etc. And it was wonderful because it was a working pipe. It actually sounded very nice. And that was the way he could interest you and infuse you. Not only was he a great musician, but he also knew a lot about the construction of the organ, which also fascinated me as a child.
For me, the heart of the city is only a few minutes away from the center of my work, while a few minutes in the other direction can give me peace, solitude, and a panorama. Admittedly, I do have to climb for it. It is quickest on foot and the least comfortable. But I think that the willingness to do that is a faith in one's bodily strength and the evidence of a desire to get above things and see the city and look around. Only recently we read in the paper about a young man near London falling down the inside of a disused 60-foot chimney. And when asked afterwards why he did such an apparently stupid thing, he replied quite simply, "I climbed up to have a look around at my district." How well I know that feeling. I spent many years in London, and frequently I would go to the top of the tower of Westminster Cathedral just to have a look around.
When I got the job myself at Westminster Cathedral, sometime in the 1960s, he just arrived one day, and it was a day when I was actually giving a recital, and he was in the audience recital, and we went out together afterwards. He was a great guidance to me in so many different ways. I think it is wonderful that a scholarship has been, how does one say, formed, made in Maxwell Fernie's memory, because he himself was such a great teacher. This scholarship will be of fantastic use, and I would just ask whoever the recipient is going to be to remember the memory of a great teacher, Maxwell Fernie, because he was, and he was very formative in my career.
It's mine. It's yours. It's mine. Listen. Now listen to me. Renew it. Listen. Watch. Now. Watch. Hold it. To prove the point.